I would think also edge rusher. If I were, I'd make a push for potentially Daniel Hunter. Don't jump on.
Big sales things are starting to get a little tricky out in the NFL world.
Who's Jalen Johnson? Now all of a sudden, everyone, I want him.
Things are getting tricky, man. This is an exciting time right now. I mean, this is why the NFL is the greatest show on earth. There's nothing that can top what the NFL provides to fans, that provides to sports pundits. The NFL just gives you so much to bite into all year round. They dominate the news cycle. The NBA wish they could do something like this. The MLB wish they could be something like this. The MLS, the NHL, they wish they could even scratch a fraction of what the NFL has done to to fans, to people. They have us waiting. They have us waiting at 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a Tuesday for guys to be moved. This is box office, baby. This is what it's all about.
Do you know that there's a World Series game tonight and no one
gives a damn? No one cares.
No one. I mean, the NBA should just go on pause when shit like this is going on, because this is freaking absolute classic stuff going on here, man. All right, let me throw some stuff at you that I threw out in the first hour here.
Okay.
Who needs this game more on Sunday?
I'm going to say Philadelphia, right? And the reason I say this is because now, matter of fact, let me frame it like this. I think both teams need this matchup, but I think they need it for different reasons. And the Philadelphia Eagles, on their side of things, they need this matchup because they have an opportunity to go up 8-1 in the conference. You go up 8-1 and you drop the Cowboys to 5-3. You now have at least a 2-game cushion between the Dallas Cowboys and yourself. On top of that, now you own the tiebreaker because you beat them. The San Francisco 49ers, they're already 5-3, right? So you already have a leg up on them, right? At this point, there are about 4 teams who are kind of deadlocked around that 5-2, 5-3, and the Philadelphia Eagles are the lone guys at 7-1. The Philadelphia Eagles have to get this win, especially going into the bye. You don't want to go into this bye with that loss on your resume. And then on top of that, you have to come out of that and try to face the Chiefs. Then you got 49ers, all that kind of stuff. You want to go in with as much confidence and with as much momentum as you possibly can have. Again, it's all about getting that number 1 seed. Our perfect example, last year, who was in the Super Bowl? The 2 teams that had the number 1 seed. You got to get it. The number 1 seed is almost guarantees you. I mean, sure, you have to play the games, right? But
you don't win the Super Bowl in 17 if you don't have home field.
Listen, I know that for a fact. I don't see Nick Foles going on the road beating Atlanta. I don't see that. You know what I mean? I don't see Nick Foles going on the road beating Minnesota. I don't see that happening. Everything has to run through Lincoln Financial. So for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's why it's so important for them to win it. Obviously for bragging rights, obviously it's a rival. We get all that. That's for the fans and stuff and pride and whatnot. But as far as their overall hopes for the division and the conference, they have to create as much distance just in case they drop one of those games over that stretch when you face the Chiefs, 49ers, Bills, Seahawks. You got to create some space.
Man, I think the Cowboys need that game as a franchise, not just as a team. They've got to win a game that puts them in contention. You can't talk about being in contention. Look at how the Eagles handled the Dolphins win, and look at how they handled the Commanders win. Both hard fought, both different reactions, both different results in how you went about your business, but They just moved on to the next. I mean, the Cowboys ended up getting killed by the 49ers. They spent an entire week making excuses why they got their asses dragged up and down the street. And and that's why they limped out of that Charger game. And that's why they always look in their rearview mirror. When your best part of your life's in your rearview mirror, you're not looking at the future. And I think that's what Philadelphia does. I want to get your take on Chase Young going to the 49ers.
Oh, man, that's a really big move for them. Look, Chase Young has first-round talent. When it comes to him, it's never been a debate about what he's capable of doing. We've seen what he's been able to do to Jordan Mailata. We've seen him wreak havoc whenever he's healthy. But that's the thing, when he's healthy. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure I got my numbers right here, but Chase Young, I mean, he missed maybe the past 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. It's like he's been battling with the ACL or the knee or whatever. So, over the past. Okay,
His first year, he was a defensive rookie of the year.
right. So his rookie year in 2020, he played 15 games. So he missed one, but he played 15 games. In 2021, only played 9 games. In 2022, only played 3 games. And in 2023, so far, he's played 7 games. So so far, so good for him this season. But over the past in 2021 and 2022, he only played a total of 12 games. So he doesn't really have the best track record over the past few years. This is a big opportunity for him with San Francisco because he doesn't have to come in and be the guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to come in and be the savior. Or I'm pretty sure his snap count is probably going to go down in San Fran because they have so much depth on the defensive line and amongst those linebackers. So that's a real good situation for him in terms of his health. The longevity of his career. You pair him with Nick Bosa and those guys, and you got Greenlaw and
Reggie Gregory coming over from Denver now.
They got Gregory. I forgot about him. They have Gregory. You still got Fred. You got Fred Warner. You know they are that Niners defense is really stacked on all 3 levels
with depth too.
With depth. So you have to give respect to the Niners for making that move. Also, you got a first-round talent for a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
Like let's be honest. The Commanders, I don't want to say the Eagles broke them because I think this was coming anyway. But for you to invest a number 1 overall pick, let me make sure I got that right. He was drafted first round, 2nd overall.
2nd overall, number 2 out of Ohio State.
Right. The Commanders could have drafted Justin Herbert. They could have drafted Tua. And they chose Chase Young in that draft. So I know they're looking at themselves like, damn, we got a 3rd-round pick for a guy we spent a 1st-round pick on. It is what it is. They didn't pick up the option. They clearly
he was special though. His rookie year, he was.
No, he was. His rookie year. What did he do? He had
9.5, I think.
He had 7.5 sacks.
Okay.
44 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 12 quarterback hits. He was a legit issue. He was a Pro Bowler as well. But again, like this move just told me that they had no faith in his health in the long term. Yep. So maybe they know something that we don't.
Well, what they want to do is they're not going to pay $20 million for a guy who hasn't had double-digit sacks in his career. That's kind of like what Jadeveon Clowney fought his entire career.
Exactly.
He runs around trying to ask for $20 million or $18 million, and someone would go like this, shit, the guy in Philadelphia makes $15 million a year, and he's going to go have four years in a row with double-digit sacks, and you've never had one. Hey, did Rasul Douglas get traded to the Bills?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me find out. Rasul Douglas, the Eagles drafted him as well.
Yeah.
So it says here, let me see if I got some news on this.
He just never fit in Jim Schwartz's system.
Yeah, he just didn't fit. Okay, so the Bills are trading for Packers cornerback Rasul Douglas per Ian Rappaport. So that's a good pickup for them.
It is.
The Packers actually paid him. I'm actually proud of Rasul Douglas, man. A guy who wasn't really drafted very high, wasn't really in the system.
Can I tell you what happened with him in Philly? I'm going to tell you what happened with him in Philly. Jim Schwartz runs a very structured defense, and you don't get the latitude to freelance, so to speak. And he's kind of like Diggs in Dallas. Diggs can't play in a structured defense. Diggs is more of a guy who's he's a gambler like Ramsey. And when you're asked and told to play inside of a sandbox a certain way, you're never going to get that real great athleticism. They let him become a player up in Green Bay like that. And I think that's what helped his game get better, is because they allowed him, and they had players on that defense that they invested around him. And he did. He signed a really nice contract up there, I think, 2 years ago.
Okay, so I just got an update. Apparently, the Bears, and this is
they're going to keep him.
It's looking like they're not going to make the move. In the
Can I tell you why? They probably wanted a 1 or a 2, and in season right now, I probably think no one wanted to give up. They probably would be willing to give up a 3, but the Bears probably just would say this: I'd rather go into the off season and try to deal him later on, or something, or sign him.
They're gonna. It's either you sign him or you lose him for nothing.
Yeah, see, I think you sign him.
We're definitely going to,
because to me, when you're right, you don't let a guy who's 24 years old just go like this. So you're going to keep him. So you're keeping him to sign him, and no one came to the table with a significant offer. Howie was going to try to get him, but not at the expense of the future of the team. Like his eyes, he probably looked at it like this. I really want the kid, but I'm not giving a 2 up for him.
Right. Right. I mean, my thing is, after Darius Slay and James Bradbury, who do you have back there that you fully trust unequivocally to really take over in the following season?
Oh, agreed.
So I think their mindset was this kid, Jalen Johnson, he's on the up and up. You know, his first few years in the league, he was still figuring it out. He finally figured it out in his 4th year. And if the Eagles were able to bring him in, you potentially could have a corner that can solidify that position at least for the next 3 to 4 years. You know, maybe you give him a 3-year, 4-year extension, something like that. And it makes sense. Again, we still have some time left, man. We have about 20 minutes, about 21 minutes before this thing really locks down. So, we're going to see, man. We're going to see.
But what positions do you think right now he's looking at? See, let me throw mine out. I would say corner help. I would not be shocked if there was some sort of small linebacker deal. Edge rusher, maybe some depth in the O-line, something like that.
Yeah, that actually sounds about what I was thinking too. I was thinking, nickel corner or corner, linebacker. I think they're perfectly fine at safety right now. Maybe some O-line depth, but Tyler Steen came in and did a really good job against the Commanders. You're going to get Cam Jurgens back. You still have Sua Opeta, so they're good. They're good at the guard spot in terms of depth. Maybe some edge depth. You know what I mean? So far, Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham haven't really,
You know what, Tone? I hate talking like that about Brandon Graham, and I don't mean any disrespect because he's a guy you don't disrespect.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, outside of Josh Sweat, you're not deep there, and you're not getting anything really out of that. And plus, they're limiting him his snaps. Even he's almost sharing him. That one side, the only way you're getting any kind of pressure on your edges is with Reddick and with Sweat, and you really don't have any depth anywhere in that conversation there. You're getting a much of your pressure from the tackles inside, and that was one of the reasons that there was only 1 sack against the Commanders on Sunday, is because your edge rushers are not giving you any kind of pressure. And when you don't have Carter in there and the banged up Jordan Davis, you know, pedestrian in that D line a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like you said, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. After that, when I see Derek Barnett on the field, it just seems like he's not getting any push. Brandon Graham
seems like a guy.
Yeah, Brandon Graham, it just seems like he's just a step slower. And he had an amazing season last year.
He sure
and you're
did.
right. And you're right. Brandon Graham is that kind of guy where it's like, it's good to have him. But curb your expectations in terms of what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Remember we said that if you got 6.5 sacks out of him, that would be a spectacular year.
If I got 5 sacks out of him,
right. Okay.
Like, yeah.
I was not expecting double-digit sacks this year coming off that, because it's been very few and far between that he's had double-digit sacks in his entire career anyway. I think, twice?
I think he's had, let me double check that. I think he had it for the first time this past season, double-digit sacks, because he's always flirted around 8, 9, 7. He's always flirted around there. So for his career,
that's solid too, man.
The first time he had double-digit sacks was last year in 2022. He had 11. The closest he came to that was in 2017, where he had 9.5. That was the Super Bowl year. So outside of 2022, his best year from a sack perspective was the Super Bowl year. That was when he was in his prime. I'm looking at his career right now. He only has a half a sack through 8 games. Now, I will say this though. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he came on in the second half of the season.
He did.
I just want to make sure.
I think I got that right. On when they got those 2 tackles.
Let me see something. So, all right, pass rush. So yeah, in the second part of that season, he came alive. Yeah, he came alive in the second half of that season, because through the first 8 weeks of the season, he only had 3 sacks. Right, through the first 8 weeks, and then after that,
8.
Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. I'm sorry. Through the first 8 weeks of the season, he had 3 sacks. Through the first 8 weeks, he had 3 sacks. And then and then from week 9 and on, he had
8.
Yeah, 8. I'm sorry. Yes, 8. My apologies. Yep, he had 8. So he came on in that second half of the season. So there's still some light in that tunnel there. You get what I mean?
Maybe they got him on a pitch count.
I think that's what it is. Because last year, matter of fact, I'll put it in perspective. As far as the snap count goes right now, he's only so far in 2023, he's only had 146 defensive snaps. That's 29% of the defensive snaps. He's on a pitch count right now.
He's on a pitch count.
Now, last year,
that's a guy that Rashad Penny conversation about keeping him in storage is ridiculous when you're struggling with red zone offense. I mean,
yeah.
Dude,
last year, Brandon Graham.
Well, I'm going to save Adrian Peterson for the second half of the season. I'm not going to play him in the first 8 games. I'm not doing that. I mean, Rashad Penny is nothing. He's not on the field because of 2 things, Tone. He can't block and can't stay healthy.
He definitely can't block. That's a fact.
He just can't block. That's why the kid Carson started over him in Seattle, and that's why they went and got that kid from Michigan State, because the kid was a better blocker than him.
Yeah, to put it in perspective,
Kid Walker.
In 2022, just going back to BG for a second, in 2022, BG was on the field for 43% of the defensive snaps. So that's clearly down this year. But again, like we mentioned, I think he's going to come along in the second half of the season. As of right now, only 29% of the snaps. He's barely on the field. So they're really keeping Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat out there. For the second leg, I think they're going to start dialing them back and start unleashing Brandon Graham a little bit more. We'll see how it turns out, though. But, yeah, man, the Eagles, this trade deadline is really fascinating, man, because you look at this defense and you see that there are some deficiencies, right? Because it's like from a distance, you look at the defense and you say, okay, you have Kevin Byard at safety. You have Darius Slay and James Bradbury at corner. You got Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, and your D-line. You would think from a distance, that's a really, really good defense, right? But then when you get a little closer, you look at the linebacker position. You see the deficiencies there. You notice the lack of reliable depth at corner. You see, okay, Darius Slay and Bradbury, they're a little old. They're a little long in the tooth.
And scheme.
And then the scheme, you're playing so far off.
That doesn't help either when you're not get this. So what you just pointed out, last year, those guys were playing well in a not so popular scheme with all
the scheme is pretty similar.
But they covered it up with good play.
And also the pass rush was historic.
That's right.
Year. So that's another thing as well. And in that Washington game in particular, the Eagles only got 1 sack, and it was a crucial sack, a strip sack. But if that pass rush isn't getting home, or at least forcing the quarterback to hold the ball a little longer or whatever it may be, if the pass rush isn't as effective as they need it to be, it exposes those DBs that much more. But I don't want to slight Kevin Byard too much because he came in on short notice, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not looking at him just yet.
I can't believe he played as many downs as he did.
Exactly. So
I looked at it. Believe me, you know me, Tone. I'm not a guy who looks at a glass half full on anything. Mm-hmm. When someone goes like this, well, he wasn't real. I go, are you crazy? Do you know what it's like to pick up French when you've been speaking Portuguese your entire career? I mean, you were at one place. It's exactly like that, Tone. Mm-hmm. One scheme is completely different than another scheme. It's like learning another language. And you've got to learn new technology, new terminologies, new alignments. You've got to learn on what your players are able to do also. And for him to go out there and play all those plays like he did, that shows you the professionalism of what he's only going to get better.
Yep. And then on top of that, your safety room looked entirely different, from week 7 to week 8. In week 7, you had Terrell Edmonds and Sidney Brown back there. Then you swap them out, and then you throw in Reed Blankenship, who came out for injury, then Kevin Byard. That there's some communication hiccups that the Commanders caught them at the perfect time in terms of that DB room ironing out the wrinkles. I think, and maybe this is me being optimistic, right? I think these DBs, once they get deeper into this season, because they need some continuity right there. They can't keep shuffling in different guys in the nickel. That's what they keep doing. They had 8 different players play the nickel this season and through 8 weeks. They've had 5 different total DB combinations through 8 weeks. It's hard, especially when their defense is based off of communication. With that on the side, Jonathan Gannon and Vic Fangio style of defense, what they're doing is they're passing guys off to the next guy. So communication is paramount in that kind of scheme. They're not really playing that much man. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the guy, Sean Desai's not saying, okay, there's your guy, stick with that guy. He's saying, okay, you're covering this area. If this guy goes beyond this area, pass him off and make sure you pick up the other guy coming from the opposite way. That's what went wrong in the Super Bowl, right? The scheme put them in a situation where they had to make so many. Andy Reid figured it out. He sent them, he sent a lot of crossing routes.
Especially in the second half.
And put the pressure on them to communicate at a high level.
Yep.
And they did it all year.
Yep.
And they failed in that particular situation. So again, this game is similar. They had to communicate at a high level to make sure they're passing guys off. And where you're constantly shuffling different guys in there and the voices are changing, it's hard for a scheme like that to work effectively.
And you're going to get guys turned around. I'm going to say this to you.
They got to get healthy. They need this bye week.
Hear this, but
they need this bye week.
Sidney Brown is not ready yet.
Yeah, he plays fast. He's physical, but from a
standpoint,
he over pursues, and he's just not ready yet. That's not saying he's a bad player, Eagles fan. He's just not ready yet. Right. He's just not ready yet. And that's okay.
He's so aggressive that I'd rather have an aggressive safety.
Right.
Than a guy that I have to beat the shit out of to make aggressive. Absolutely. I want to pull him. He over pursues. His pursuit angles are a little fast. And what I mean by that is
he commits too early.
Safety slow play those guys. They know when to use their talent. They know when to use their speed, and they know when to knock people out. Brian Dawkins was an amazing player at doing that, and so was Reed. Go watch those guys, how they played the game. It wasn't everything at high speed. He's playing everything. And he just over pursues. And I'll tell you something else. He's got to be a better tackler. He's got to wrap up better. So this is why they went and got the kid from Tennessee, because the kid's still a green apple on the tree. It's okay. I like him. No shade. I like him, but he's just not ready yet. And you're not going to rely on a guy like that in a football game to win you a Super Bowl yet. It's just not there, I don't think, yet.
And that's why they made the move for a guy like Kevin Byard, an experienced veteran who doesn't blink, a guy who holds the team accountable. Right after that game, they was talking to Kevin Byard after that game against the Commanders, and he sounded like he'd been there for 8 weeks. The way he was addressing the team, the way he was addressing the media, the way he was holding himself, the team accountable. It was almost because when you first get to a team, right? You're humble, you're a nice guy, all that kind of stuff. After that game, you're catching him right out of battle. You're catching him right. You're catching him right out of the fire. That cookie sheet's still hot. So he's literally still in game mode, and he's talking about things they didn't do well, the things they need to improve on. He's talking about we didn't play up to our standard. We're better than this. We know we're better than this, and we're going to get it right, because you know why? All the mistakes we had are correctable. We won the game, but still we have a lot to correct. He's already staking his claim to be one of the leaders on this defense. I think they need to follow suit with this guy, and I think they'll be fine. I think he's going to have, especially Reed Blankenship, he's going to make sure guys are in their spots. Again, he came in on short notice. I really think in the long run, because we talked about this in the offseason, Big Sills, this defense is going to be this, to use a Nick Sirianni analogy, it's a flower. It's a flower, right? And it's blossoming petal by petal. You know what I mean? You got to water it. You got to fertilize it, okay? So I think this defense is literally going to continue to evolve as the season goes. But they need consistency as far as personnel goes. They got to get healthy.
Absolutely. Isn't it funny that everything we said in the offseason about this defense is coming to light here? We said that Slay, and I didn't think Bradbury would struggle as much. But I'll tell you something, the inability of the safety position to keep it hunkered down has affected this corner play. And Tone, I'm telling you, the scheme, their belief is this. They don't think there's enough good quarterbacks in the NFL to go on a 14-play drive and not make a mistake inside that 14-play drive. And they just look, like I said, their philosophy was exactly what Sam Howell did late in the game. Somewhere in the game, Howell's going to make a mistake, and he did. And so they would rather play 10 yards off the ball and hope you make a mistake. That's their defensive philosophy. That's why a lot of people in Philly don't like it, is because when a guy like Sam Howell could play pitch and catch with you and have 80% completion percentage on you, and you see all these quarterbacks that have all these incredible numbers against you. Slay, remember I said this? This is Slay's last year. That's why they gave him the bag of money.
Yeah, I said that, right? I said that before.
He took a $3.5 million haircut, right? And you're like this. We haven't really seen that guy. Now, to your giving the grades out, what happened on Sunday, he's nicked up, and he wasn't really the issue. It was more Bradbury, believe it or not, on the other side. That was the guy. And I do think that safety position. I do have to ask you something, though. And I asked everybody else in here, what is your absolute hatred with the Cowboys, dude? I mean, how has this been? Is this just like a childhood thing when you're born in Philly? See, I would have thought that your rivalry would have been New York because it's closer.
There are true
division.
Rivals. There are
more historical.
Rivals.
Yeah. Why do you hate the Cowboys?
Sills, so like you said, you would think that the Giants would be the bane of our existence, right? And the Giants are, I repeat, the Giants are our real rivals.
Yes.
And the Redskins,
historical rival.
Right. Historical. And the Cowboys and the Commanders / Redskins, Washington, that's their historical true rival, right? The Giants haven't been relevant in so long, you tend to forget about a team like that. But when you think about the Cowboys, and also Giants fans are more humble than what you may think. They're more humble. They got their 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning. They don't talk that much. If I'm being honest. They're way more humble. They're way more chill about things. I think Commanders fans talk more than Giants fans. I think the Giants,
because I think New York fans are Yankee fans. I don't think they're New York Giant fans.
And that's where that might be the rub right there, right? So when it comes to the Cowboys, when you look at them, you see this. They're like action figures. They think they're real, but they're not. They think they're the real thing, but they're not. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I can't put my faith or even give an organization like that my respect. The colors make me vomit. Everything about
deep-seated. This is deep-seated, Tone.
Everything. This is almost clinical. Like the way they move, the way they talk out there, the way they do business, the way they just think that they run the NFL, the way they think they run the NFC East is mind-blowing to me. And it's like, I look at you guys as a team who thinks they are, but they never will. And you have this organization that always sets this bar. This is the year, especially the fan base. This is our year. This is the year. This is the year.
How about that beautiful star on the helmet?
You know what that star means, right? It's not a logo, it's a rating. It's a 1-star rating. That's what it is. You know what I mean? And I've been to 1-star rated places, and typically they don't last too long. And that's pretty akin to who the Cowboys are, right? They make you think that they're legit. They make you think that they're ready to win it all. They make you think that. That's the gag right there, Big Sills. That's the gag. They make you think they're legit until it gets down to the nitty-gritty, and it's time to make that play. It's time to see whose heart is beating harder than the others. It's time to see who got the will to push this sled, who really has it when it matters most. When it's all said and done, who has it? It's never them. They lost 2 years in a row to a team in the San Francisco 49ers that they claim to have their number. Make that 3 years in a row if you count this year. They cannot mess with the 49ers in the playoffs. Yeah, I know Dak Prescott, he has an 8-3 record against the Philadelphia Eagles. He can have that. Like you always say, take the battle, all right? But when it comes to the war, that's where we're not breathing the same air.
No, you're not.
Your culture is non-existent. You're so caught up in the glitz and the glam, man. You know, the pom-poms, the cheerleaders. You think you're so shit, but you're not.
Chris is right. Chris is right. Yankee fans are not Giant fans. Yankee fans are Cowboy fans.
Yeah. You know what's so crazy? You know what's the most annoying thing,
Okay.
right? When you go on someone's Twitter bio and you see Yankees, Cowboys, Lakers.
Yeah.
That is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and I'm surprised Notre Dame's not in that.
Exactly, right? And then and then honestly, it breaks my heart when I see people from Philadelphia who are Cowboys fans.
I would never, you know what? If I ever saw something, I don't believe in that shit either.
Because what do you think this is, Ellis Island? Like no one migrates to Philadelphia. So I want to know where did this come from? How are you a Cowboys fan in Philadelphia? Make it make sense. You in Philadelphia, the land of the Philly cheesesteaks, the water ice, and the soft pretzels. Make it make sense.
I
don't get it, Sills.
I don't either, man. Okay, I got another one here for you. Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts. Okay. Now, that 8-3 record that I always tease people with, let me tell you why that could be a little misleading. Prescott is averaging 33 attempts, 22 completions, 68% completion percentage. 251. He's thrown for 27.57 in yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 98.9 quarterback rating, and as we said, an 8-3 record. Here's Jalen. Jalen's 2-2 versus the Cowboys. He's 104. And by the way, that first year, he had like 2 passes.
Right.
So it's not, this is where it's misleading. 104, 62 completion, 59.6. He's averaging 208, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks, 85-1, 2-2 record. Now, let's look at that, for instance, and go, do you really think that that's Jalen Hurts? 59.6, averaging 208 versus the Cowboys? Absolutely not. You know who Dak is. This is like pre-Jalen where he is today. Those statistics for Hurts have nothing to do with how he'll play Sunday. All the games that he has played so far against the Cowboys are almost irrelevant. Wouldn't you say this, Tone? In the last 4 Cowboy games, he is a completely different player from that 4 Cowboy games ago to where he is right.
We got blown out in very well. Yeah,
but
that was ugly.
Dak has not changed who he is.
Agreed. You know, this is definitely a different Jalen Hurts, right? And we're seeing him evolve quite literally in front of our very eyes. You know, the offense in and of itself is trying to become more pass oriented. You know, I don't even want to say pass heavy. I want to say pass oriented because I think you brought it up earlier. They're trying to get with the times, so to speak. And
they're trying to speed up to the NFL rules.
Yeah, and in Philadelphia, we're so used to this physical brand of smash mouth, ugly, muddy football, right? The run the rock, the tight ends, you know, the play action game, and dumping it off to the running back in the screen play. Like, we're so used to a different brand of football. So seeing the Eagles play a game like they did against the Washington Commanders is kind of foreign to us, especially when you see the running game not really get off. Even though you look at the personnel and you say, damn, like, you have the personnel to really dominate the run game. And it turns out to me, like, at least from my estimation, when they truly commit to the run game, they can run on anybody. I think the reason the run game has looked so stagnated this past few games, outside of personnel issues on the offensive line, I think it's because they really truly haven't committed over the past few weeks. Because running the ball is a mindset. And
I think it's that bone bruise on Hurts' knee also. What do you make of that? It's not MCL.
Yeah,
ACL, it's a bone bruise.
Yeah, I'm not even going to act like that's like the biggest thing in the world. Granted, he's dealing with it, but the reality is, like you said, it's not a strain, it's not a tear, it's not a sprain or anything. It's uncomfortable. It's just annoying. It's uncomfortable. It's one of those things. It's one of those things you wake up like, need to put some ice on that. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's nothing that's going on. You played the game before. I'm sure you've had a bone bruise. Like, it's not something that you think it's not something you're going to hinge your season on, right?
No.
But it's also given us an opportunity to see what Jalen Hurts looks like in the pocket strictly. In that Commanders game, he operated from the pocket for the most part. You know, I was really impressed with what that looked like. And he didn't even throw the ball he threw the ball what 39 times or 38 times. I don't want Jalen Hurts throwing it over 40 times. That's not really still to me. I don't think that's his. I think any quarterback throwing the ball over 40 times.
If he's throwing at 70%, he's at 70%.
Yeah.
And he's throwing the ball at 70%, Tone. And I mean,
again, maybe I got to get used to it, right?
And you're throwing the ball 45 times. You're going to have to learn to live with 15 picks.
Right. And again, that goes back to me having to shift my mindset, right? I know as Eagles fans, it's fun to get on the Cowboys, especially more so Dak Prescott, because if Dak Prescott wasn't a Cowboy, I would like Dak Prescott, honestly, if he wasn't a Cowboy, but he's a Cowboy, so he gets to smoke too. But my point is, though, Dak Prescott threw 15 interceptions last year, right? And we spoke about this yesterday. The only reason we really talk about those 15 interceptions with Dak Prescott is because he threw them in 12 games, not 17 games. Because at the end of the day, Matthew Stafford, he led the league in interceptions. And what did he do? He won the Super Bowl. So interceptions aren't necessarily a full-blown indicator of how good someone is sometimes.
Because you've
right?
got to read through it. If you throw the ball 700 times, you've got 16 picks.
That's not the worst. That's not the worst.
Think about it. Jalen threw 6 picks a year ago with 435. You had another 300 attempts. You're going to double that and then some.
Absolutely.
Just the law of averages. Hey, are you disappointed?
And that's the thing.
So far, the Eagles haven't made a deal.
It's
still time because a lot of this shit has to go through the league office, so things could still trickle out here.
I'm not going to say disappointed. I think I'm not disappointed because I think we made our big move early, and that was the Kevin Byard move. So I know it's easy to overlook that move, but that move was made prior to the trade deadline. It was pretty damn close still. I mean, it's within a week of the trade deadline. So I still have to appreciate that move that was done because that's a huge move. He still remedied a major need with an all-pro, Pro Bowler level talent. That's not easy to do.
I don't care if you did it today or 5 days ago. You got a player. So it really doesn't matter.
Exactly. So he technically made a move prior to the trade deadline. So I give him credit where credit is due. If anything, I think that was the big move. Of course, as Eagles fans, again, it's entertaining, right? So seeing how we make a move, we think it's automatically going to work. You know what I mean? Because he has a pretty solid track record over the past few years. But overall, when you think about that Kevin Byard move, and most teams really, they're only making one major move. The San Francisco 49ers, their move was Chase Young. You know what I'm saying? That was their move. The Seahawks, their move was Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams, that was their move.
Excuse me.
Right. And I think they signed Randy Gregory off waivers, something like that. No, I'm sorry. That
49ers did.
I'm sorry, 49ers did that. So overall, most teams only make that one move, especially Super Bowl teams. You don't really make too many moves. You don't want to have too many moving parts. You might make a move or two. I think the Eagles made their major move. Anything else would have been a plus.
I think they made the right move with getting the kid from Tennessee too last week, and this is why the closer you get to the deadline, the more you're held hostage on your pick, and you have to put those picks out there because you're desperate to get a hole filled, and they're going to take advantage of you like that. So to me, Howie probably really did a good negotiating job. Said, let me get, he probably wanted to make his big moves last week. And this was these moves here coming up to the trading deadline were going to be more moves that were going to be for filling of depth. I mean, the Chase Young, what gets me, doesn't that tell you something about adding Chase Young and Randy Gregory? You must not be pretty happy with what's going on with Nick Bosa this year.
And you just paid him all that money.
You just gave him $30 million.
As a matter of fact, let's see what Nick Bosa is doing right now from a stat
perspective. I think he's got 3 sacks.
Let's find out. Because Nick Bosa on this season, he
held out.
He has 3 sacks, 22 tackles, 6 tackles for loss.
How many games?
And 19 quarterback hits. He's played in 8 games. So that's not really the pace he normally goes at. So, and then also that when you think about that Niners defense, they've been struggling over the past few weeks. And I know a lot of people are kind of trying to blaming Steve Wilkes, but in some of those games, his defense has created opportunities for the offense, and they haven't really been taking advantage of them. I feel like it's too easy to blame Steve Wilkes. I mean, I know they gave up 31 points to the Bengals, but the Bengals had to fight for those 31 points still.
Yeah.
And it's just that the Niners just didn't respond enough. So, you know, I mean, I talked about this in the offseason. Not many people paid any attention. I felt like they were going to miss DeMeco Ryans just because of a mentality and from a philosophy perspective. And that's not taking anything away from Steve Wilkes, but I just feel like they're missing him right now. Because you got to change, change philosophy, change their approach. And then we talk about this all the time. Players tend to take on the identity of their coaches and
their scheme.
So I don't know.
And most of the time, the scheme is the coach.
Exactly. And again, I feel like Steve Wilkes has been decent. I don't think he's been.
I don't have a problem with him at all. I think it's the offense, and it's Purdy not being able to overcome deficiencies on the offense. And I get it. You lose Trent Williams, it'd be like Jalen losing Lane, and the numbers dictate that. Or Lane and AJ at the same time, the Eagle offense would be completely different. But here's the one, and Jalen's turning the ball over more because they're throwing it more. I think you would have the same result that Purdy's having, because now if you were running last year's offense, I don't think the turnovers would be high. And you got to remember something also, Tone, that people refuse to bring up about Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders in the red zone last year was exceptional. He had 11 touchdowns. He it wasn't that he didn't get in the end zone. He had 11 touchdowns last year. And you gave that ball to him. I mean, this guy had 1,300 yards rushing. It was fourth in the history of the franchise, and 11 touchdowns. That is missed. Okay?
Absolutely.
That is missed right now when it comes to your red zone rushing attack and your short yardage. Dude, the one thing about Swift that I don't get, dude, they take him out on short yardage and they take him out in red zone.
I don't like that because
is not looked at in this league as a tough guy.
Like, he's not even given the opportunity. You get what I mean?
I mean, right.
And that's kind of my issue, right? Because like I mean, he had a red zone touchdown on that fake quarterback sneak when they sweeped it left. That was technically a red zone touchdown.
Yeah.
I think he had one.
Play.
Yeah, he had one in the Vikings game, but they're not really giving him opportunities down there. I got to be honest with you. I think Kenny Gainwell signed his death warrant with that halftime debacle. You know, playing around on social media. You know, while you're in the middle of a very heated game, you're down by 7 points going into halftime. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Boston Scott this week.
Well, how can you lose your focus? Now, look, I'll tell you this. Now, Tone, honest to God, it's a different world today. We're all on our phones. This is what happens when you go in the locker room. You go in there, you get in front of your chalkboard, your position coach is talking to you about what they're doing, this and that. You get some refreshments, you take your pads off, you put a new shirt on, new undershirt on, you put your pads back on again. Then you get a little free time to sit there, get some refreshments, get a little Gatorade. You sit in your locker there until you go back out on the field again. And I'm assuming probably today the kids picked their phone up and he probably saw a notification and he hit it and he saw it and he responded to it, put it down, didn't think anything of it. I'm not making an excuse, and I'm thinking that for him to do that like that, though, to respond to a guy from Hackensack, New Jersey, is unbelievable. I could see if my mom said you're playing like shit, I'm going to respond to my mom. It's just
not a good. It's just not a good look when you're on the championship roster and you're down at the half. It's not like
they're counting on you.
Yeah, and they're counting on you, and you just fumbled. So
and you know what? They want you to succeed in Philly.
Yeah, so you know when you
I
add
don't get
those
this
variables
love affair with the kid, though. I just don't get this love affair.
I'm not really seeing it either at this point.
Shut up, maniac.
I don't see it. I don't see a guy who's really elevated his game from year 1 to year 3 and 4. I don't really see the splash like I thought I would see, because I was high on Kenny Gainwell when he came out, and I was even high on him last year. I felt like he needed more touches, and a lot of people are so against me when I say I feel like Kenny Gainwell he hasn't improved. He hasn't shown me anything to really make me feel like he deserves Like the opportunities. I'm so bullish on Boston Scott because whenever Boston Scott is on the field, he just finds the hole. And he's not necessarily a power back, but he's a short, stout guy who runs with speed, but he runs with power. He's not afraid to put his shoulder down. I'm bullish on Boston Scott, man.
Do you remember I told you that Kenny Gainwell's a dude? And I've been saying that for 2 years. He's a dude.
Right.
He's a dude. He's nothing like and behind that old line. Sometimes you when you're behind an old line like that, you can hide behind it because they're so talented. And look at Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is hurt. He's not good down in Carolina. And I think you could put anybody. That's what the Eagle mentality is. Hey, if I got the best O-line, you know what? I'm going to make a C student into a B student automatically with my O-line.
And that's what Boston Scott has done. Boston Scott.
See, the difference in Tennessee is that you had an A+ back in a C offensive line that played like D players, but you had a great Derrick Henry there. You put Derrick Henry behind the offensive line in Philly, he goes for 2,500 yards.
So right now in 2023, Boston Scott, he's averaging in 2023. He's only had 8 carries. He's averaging almost 6 yards a carry.
He has no faith. They have no faith in him.
And then in 2022, he averaged 4 yards a carry. In 2021, he averaged 4 yards a carry. There hasn't been a season where he's averaged less than 4 yards a carry.
Is Gainwell a good pass blocker?
That's a good question. I never give him much thought. That's a really good question.
I'm gonna have to check his grades out.
I've not given him much thought. And also, he doesn't fumble the ball. He hasn't fumbled since 2021. Like he doesn't fumble. In 2022, he had 54 carries. Not many, but still. Getting Gainwell hasn't had that many carries, but it's like I just feel like Boston Scott is a guy who runs with the mindset of this can be my last run. And Kenny Gainwell operates from this position of privilege, like he deserves to be out there. Boston Scott understands that I have to earn every snap. He runs like that. There's a difference in their approach, in my opinion.
Jimmy Johnson's going to join us at 5:30. We're going to talk to him a lot about the rivalry.
It's going to be exciting. He's confirmed, by the way. It's going to be good.
Cowboys and Eagles, and we'll get his take. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you about the Cowboys here. Here's Dak and what Dak's doing right now. Dak is completing 71% of his footballs, which is insane great. He's on pace for just a tick under 4,000 passing yards, 24 TDs and 12 touchdowns. And he's around 98% quarterback rating. That's a good year, man. He's having a solid. I wouldn't say that's spectacular, but I think he's having a good year. Here's Tony Pollard. Yeah, here's Tony Pollard, averaging almost at 4 yards a carry. He's on pace for 1,027. CeeDee Lamb right now is on pace for 112 catches for 1,537. And he's averaging around 13.8. And Parsons is on pace for 14.5 sacks. So, I mean, if you look at these numbers here, you know what sticks out to me when it comes to Cowboys versus Eagles? I see 4 dudes. I see 10 dudes in Philly on defense and offense. You know what I mean? There's just more star power. And there's more playmakers. I don't see play. I mean, Tony Pollard does not frighten me. CeeDee Lamb can be shut down. Parsons can be run at, and Dak can be confused. You see, if Jalen turns the ball over, they're not going to be afraid not to throw the ball 42 times in a game. They're not going to care. They're going to keep doing it, or they'll turn around and just start running the ball, or start doing screens. A.J. Brown is such a force right now. Just telling you, Tone, he's such a force. It's insane to watch him play. I think he's the best wide receiver in National Football League. He's just, I mean, when you look at the Cowboys, what do you think when you hear these numbers here and what I just said to you? You all right?
No, yeah, my bad. Kids getting out of school, so you know how that goes. Nonetheless, it's Halloween. Got to watch these little. I'm gonna
tell you something about Halloween before you comment on the Cowboys. I'm a Hawk, man. I put out these bowls. You take more than one of your allotment, man, I'm gonna jump your ass like you think you're gonna see Jeffrey Dahmer coming down on your ass, man. I'll be go like I'll get. Don't you dare! I chased a kid down one time. I did a sweep tackle on him. He took all my candy, man. I put it out there. This was when I was in Orlando. I did a sweep tackle, like I was a SWAT team member, man. I got that. He goes, I'm sorry, man. And I go, dude, take as many as you want, but don't take them all.
See, you know what
I get aggravated with that.
You know what it is, real quick, before we get back to the Cowboys, really quickly. I'm from Philly, so Philly does Halloween very differently. Really, like Philly is. I'm pretty sure you heard of Mischief.
What do you do? Give cannolis away?
You've heard of Mischief Night, right? Mischief Night.
Yeah.
In Philly, the night before Halloween and the day of, it gets ruthless. Kids aren't just throwing eggs; they're freezing them and throwing them. These kids are crazy in Philly. So kids get ruthless. See. So my antennas are stuck in Philly right now.
Oh, so you're looking for someone to TP your front house or your tree?
I'm looking for all the little assholes out there that's trying to do something really sneaky. You know what I mean? I'm being honest. Like Philly does Halloween they're a little ruthless in Philly when it comes to Halloween. But nonetheless, though,
when they throw eggs, they throw hard-boiled eggs.
Exactly. So they make sure you feel it. But as far as those Cowboys, man, like I'm looking at what they're doing, and like the reality is they're a talented football team, and they're a football team that you have to take seriously. And their record is what it is against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Dak Prescott era. That has to be considered. You can't overlook that. But they are in Philadelphia. They're in Lincoln Financial Field. The Philadelphia Eagles are. See, here's the thing, right? This Philadelphia Eagles team, they're not what Dak Prescott is used to playing. They're just not. So, and then you mentioned the Jalen Hurts effect. I think this is going to be a hell of a football game. The game plan, in my opinion, I understand we want to throw the ball. I'm not against it, but you got to get your running game going because Dallas cannot take it.
They can't
all their losses, they have been hit so hard in the mouth. The Eagles got to understand that.
Put them to sleep. Put them to sleep by dinking and dunking.
Just put them to sleep. Just put
them
to sleep.
Get that Habib right around there, up and over. Put the hand over here and end it.
Listen, listen. If I'm at the coin toss, right, and if I'm Hassan Reddick and those guys, AJ Brown at the coin toss, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, if I'm them boys, I'm shaking their hand. I'm pulling Michael Parsons close like this. Now you can't leave.
Hey, wait a minute. I want to tell you one of the greatest. And so when we go to timeout, I want you to Google this. So Jerome Brown, Lonzo Highsmith, Winston Moss, and the Oklahoma guys come to the line. This was number 1 versus number 2. Jerome's sitting here like this. Ain't afraid of you. Ain't afraid of you. This is my home. They wanted us to shake hands. The referees go, okay, shake hands. And here's Alonzo. I'm not afraid of you, bitch. And again, this is on national TV. We got hammered. Wait, it ain't done. So check it out. They go like this. Shake hands. Jimmy Johnson standing there. I'm going to bring it up with coach. He goes like this. He goes, okay, shake hands. We refuse to shake hands before the game. We got a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct because we wouldn't shake their hand. And we beat the shit out of them for the second year in a row, 28-16. We were not shaking their hand.
Cold-blooded. See, that's my thing, man. Like when you're going to look at like football players, the NFL, like this is our modern day Coliseum. This is our modern day Olympia. This is our modern day gladiators, right? And the way I don't want my gladiators being homies with the other gladiators. I want you guys. And this may sound barbaric. This may sound. This may sound
barbaric game.
This may sound primal, but I want you to take their damn head off and ask. I want you to take their head off and ask questions later.
Easy Tone, I got suspended for that on the air at QAM, and I meant it as a metaphor too. You know what? No one had a sense of humor with it.
They want to strip. I'm tired of people trying to strip the physicality out of football. They're trying to take the foot out of ball
and the mentality.
I don't understand it. You want these guys to be ruthless on the field, but the moment they talk like you want them to be gladiators on the field, but the moment they start talking like gladiators, now it's a problem. You can't have it both ways, man.
Now shut up and just dribble.
That's the expectation, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Tone, as always, my good friend, I can't wait to have Jimmy talk about the rivalry with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because the body bag game was during his time. He and Buddy went back and forth, called Buddy Ryan a big fat ass. and Buddy's like, shit, I thought I lost a whole man. Those days were so
Oh
great.
man, I really, I was born in '94, Sales, and I wish I could have experienced like football in the '80s and just seeing, and in the early '90s, but really taking it in to really experience it. I really wish I could really have those memories at the Vet, man. All my memories of Lincoln Financial Field, man. Oh, I just wish I could have seen that level of carnage.
Well, here's my memory at the Vet, looking up and seeing all those crazy maniacs in the 700, and then tripping over second base as I was trying to make a tackle because the damn second base and the turf were not very good, and you tripped over it, and the Eagle guys were always trying to run you over it and run you to that direction. And dude, worse, it had a big rip scene. Some of the people in here will know this. The Vet had this gigantic rip in the carpet that was like a half moon.
Do you remember? And I think it was like 2000 or 2001. Brian Billick, the Ravens, they were supposed to play a preseason game in Philadelphia, right? And the game was kind of delayed for a little bit because Brian Billick was on the turf. He was at the Vet. He was like, "Yo, what the hell is this?" Like, he's like, "Yo, like my guys aren't coming out here to play on this field right now, right?" He kept stopping his foot on the turf. He's like, "It won't stay down. It won't stay like." So all of a sudden, they canceled the whole game because Brian Billick refused to bring his guys out on that turf. The Ravens. It was insane.
Terrible. It was a great get-together place, but
I can imagine, man.
And like Kurt Schilling said a couple days ago, man, he enjoyed playing there. But anyway, Tone, great stuff. Thank you so much, my friend. All
Yes,
good,
sir.
man.
Always fun.
Absolutely. The segment every day, 3:30. We talk to our friend Tone as we get ready for Cowboys. I'm going to give you my top 10 NFL quarterback list for this week. We're going to do that when we come back out of the timeout. I want to take a look at the Cowboys again. Do not forget, Jimmy Johnson is also going to join us at 5:30 from NFL on Fox. We will talk with him at 5:30. Do not forget also our good friends at Hooters, 40th anniversary. Fall in football in Hooters all go together from Rhode Island all the way down through New Jersey, down through King of Prussia. Please do me a favor, go into any one of the 7 locations, and you'll experience what I've been talking about now for 40 years. If you don't want to go into the places, use the app, HootersToGo.com. Tuesdays, buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. That's the year the place was founded, believe it or not. It's been that long, huh? 40th anniversary. They just had the party the other day. All good, man. 6 items, $6. Kids eat for free on Saturdays. NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. And do me a favor. Anytime you go into any one of the Hooters, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.